Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a piece of invisible infrastructure that's absolutely vital for anyone handling online systems and integrations. We're talking about webhook signatures. We're going to pull back the curtain on the pure mechanics of HMAC SHA-256 to see exactly how the cryptography of trust actually works under the hood when you're dealing with platforms like Razorpay. We're skipping the fluff today, it's just the raw mathematical reality that keeps digital payments secure. So, let's jump right in.
So let's start with the most critical security question you're ever going to face when building a payment integration. How do you actually know a webhook came from Razorpay? Seriously, think about it for a second. Your server just gets an incoming ping over the internet saying a payment of $1,000 was successful. Are you just going to blindly trust it and ship the product to the user? The stakes for fake webhooks are unbelievably high, and assuming trust on the internet is a fast track to absolute disaster.
Because look, without a cryptographic signature, the internet is basically the Wild West. A malicious actor could easily intercept that network request, modify the payload body, and fire a completely fake webhook straight to your server. And without proper checks, you would have absolutely no way of knowing it was forged. They could literally mark unpaid orders as paid, drain your inventory, or activate premium accounts for free. We absolutely need a way to mathematically guarantee authenticity.
And that brings us to our foundation, the hash function. Simply put, it's an algorithm that takes any input, whether it's just a tiny one-word text or literally an entire library of books, and produces a fixed-length fingerprint of it. It mathematically condenses data down into a unique string of characters. This digital fingerprint is our very first step in proving that our Razorpay webhook hasn't been tampered with in transit.
Now, hash functions have four critical properties that make them so incredibly powerful. First, they're one-way. You just can't reverse engineer the fingerprint to get the original payload back. Second, they're deterministic. The exact same input will always give you the exact same output, every single time. Third, and this is super crucial, is the avalanche effect. Changing even a single comma or a space in your input completely scrambles the output into something entirely different. And finally, the specific algorithm Razorpay uses, SHA-256, always produces a standard 256-bit or 32-byte output. So we get this highly sensitive, standard-sized fingerprint.
But wait, if Razorpay just sent a basic SHA-256 hash of the payload, we'd still be incredibly vulnerable. Why? Well, because hackers know the SHA-256 algorithm too. It's public math. They could just intercept the payload, change status failed to status success, recompute the hash themselves using that exact same public math, and send it right over to you. That is exactly why you absolutely need a secret key, a shared password that only you and Razorpay know about.
Enter HMAC. This stands for Hash-Based Message Authentication Code. Now, I know, it's a bit of an intimidating name, but it's really the ultimate elegant solution to our spoofing problem. HMAC takes that basic hash function we just talked about and safely mixes your shared secret key into the computation. It essentially marries the raw payload data with your secret password in a cryptographically secure way that just can't be easily untangled.
The crucial takeaway here is this. Without the secret, you cannot produce the correct HMAC, even if you know the exact payload. A hacker might know exactly what the JSON body of the Razorpay webhook looks like. Maybe they even generated the payment link themselves. But because they don't have your specific, heavily guarded secret key, any HMAC they try to generate is going to be completely wrong. Your secret key is the undisputed linchpin of this whole operation.
So in practice, the whole flow looks like this. First, your server catches the incoming payload body from Razorpay, along with the signature they generated. Then, your server takes that exact payload and securely mixes in your key to compute its own local HMAC SHA-256 signature. Finally, you carefully weigh the signature Razorpay sent against the signature your server just computed. If they match, you're golden.
Okay, understanding the theory is one thing, but let's move into practical application by exploring three critical beginner gotchas that trip up a lot of developers.
Gotcha number 1. You absolutely must use the raw body, not parse JSON. Remember the avalanche effect we discussed a minute ago, where changing one tiny character completely alters the hash? Well, if your web framework automatically parses the incoming request into a JSON object, and then you try to convert it back to a string to hash it, you might accidentally add a space, remove a new line, or just change the formatting slightly. Boom! Your hash won't match Razorpay's, and the verification fails. Always, always hash the raw incoming string exactly as it arrived.
Which brings us to gotcha number 2. This is a fascinating and, honestly, somewhat terrifying vulnerability known as a timing attack. This happens when an attacker actually measures how long a comparison takes on your server to guess the signature, literally byte by byte. If you just use standard string matching to compare Razorpay's signature with your calculated signature, you're opening up a catastrophic security risk. Let's break down why. Look at the contrast between a standard == sign versus a secure constant-time comparison function like hmac.compareDigest in Python. A regular equal sign, actually, think of it like a leaky pipe. It short circuits. The moment it hits a mismatched character, it stops and immediately returns false. That means an attacker can send thousands of requests and measure the microscopic milliseconds of difference to figure out exactly which character failed, slowly brute forcing your signature. A constant-time comparison, however, takes the exact same amount of time to run, no matter where the strings differ. It completely blinds the attacker.
And finally, gotcha number 3. It sounds incredibly obvious, but you have to keep the secret actually secret. I literally can't tell you how many times developers accidentally commit their webhook secret keys to public GitHub repositories or inadvertently log them in plain text when they're debugging a server error. You must store your secret safely in an environment variable or a dedicated secret store. Because if your secret is compromised, your entire HMAC verification is rendered completely useless.
So, to tie all these abstract concepts together into something you can actually visualize, think of SHA-256 as a wax seal impression. It fingerprints the message. Your secret key, that's the unique signet ring that only you own, making that impression unforgeable. The HMAC process is the physical act of signing a letter with your ring. And the constant time comparison, that is taking the time to carefully check every single millimeter of the wax, rather than stopping your inspection the second you see a tiny crack.
When you put all of these pieces together perfectly, you get an incredibly powerful guarantee. If the HMAC matches, the payload came from someone who knows your secret, in this case Razorpay, and it was definitely not modified in transit. It's a mathematical proof of authenticity and integrity, all wrapped into one single elegant mechanism.
Which leaves us with the ultimate question as we wrap up this explainer. I really want you to think about your own setups. Is your server truly verifying its webhooks securely, using constant time comparisons and strictly protected secrets? Or are you leaving your digital letters completely unsealed for anyone to tamper with? I highly encourage you to go check your own webhook implementations today. Stay curious, stay secure, and I'll catch you in the next one.